drop. But it says it's still going up. 5 seconds worth. Okay, well, anyway. 5 seconds worth, we'll deal with it. So we have that, so let's go ahead and divide this up. It looks like it's mostly long, and then about here we split over and we have this longer piece here. And it might need to be even a little bit longer, but we'll go with that as we get there. So I'm going to keep this as is, but I'm going to add an editable poly modifier to this. And the reason for that is I can always go back to my box and make overall proportion adjustments if I need to. So I'm going to eyeball this at first. I'm going to move this over to about here. There we go. Okay. So we have that kind of set up. I don't like this color, so we're going to change that. I have a standard setup I like. I use the default gray, and then we're going to put our perspective into shaded and edged faces. All right, and we'll hide the grid for now. There we go. So here's the beginning of our box. Nothing too terribly exciting just yet. All right. Let's go ahead and throw a plane in the background. I'm going to move it behind it, and we're going to use this as our side, and we're going to copy it a few times. So let's fill the screen with this. There we go. So this plane we only need to do one by one, but we are going to put a material on this. So I'm going to call this reference, and we're going to throw that on there, and this is going to be full color. There we go. And I'm going to choose a material. So open up my slot, say bitmap. So I'm going to load an image. So this image is in my downloads folder. There it is. And it is called water pump generator turnaround. There it is. Now, it should tell me the size of it. It's not currently. That's okay. Oh, there it was. It tells you the size of it, and we can determine how big our thing has to be for scale. So 4262 by 1280. 4262. So what I typically do here is I'll take this and I'll set these units to that, even though that's unrealistic at first. So 4262, right, by, was it 1280? Let me double check that. Yes, okay, good. So that's obviously too big, right? It's way too big. But the important part is now if I look at this from, what side am I looking at this from? This is the front, technically. We'll change that in a second. Actually, let's just change it now. If that's the front, we want this whole thing to rotate, like so. Let's put our snaps on. We want the whole thing to rotate 90 degrees. So now we're technically looking at the front, what I would call the front of the object. There we go. Okay, so we definitely do want the right-hand view. This is left. This changes to right. There we go. So now if we look at this and we turn from wireframe onto shaded, let's move this back. No. Sorry, I was correct the first time, left. It's hard to tell because I can't see the object yet. But we're going to turn that on. There we go, display. Now we can see the object. Okay, good. So now we can see our image here. And so now we can tell that yes, it is going to be on the right hand side to view through it, which means my initial line is wrong, but that's okay. Oh no, that's correct. So now we know that this is the size it has to be in the real world. So we're going to scale this down until it matches. So we can bring this down. And now we'll start to fit this in place. One thing that can be helpful while we're doing this is I'm going to turn this object invisible or see-through. And now I can move my reference around and say, okay, how big should this thing be? So I'm going to scale it down a little bit more, a little bit up. Trying to just tweak it in there. Okay, that's good. That's good right there. Okay, we'll go with that. There we go. Now we have our initial setup. But this is only for the sides, so we have to do the front and the back here. Welcome to our new viewers. If you guys have any questions, let me know. We're setting up our references here, and we're going to get started modeling. All right, so I'm going to take this, I'm going to make a copy of it, rotate out a copy, 90 degrees, there we go. And I'll move it to the back right there. And obviously you'll have to move something like that along the edge. Now let's take a look. shaded. So looking down from the front, this is what we should see. Good, and we do. And I can move this reference sheet over and just kind of center it on the box there. Okay. Now we want the same thing, but we're going to actually put it in front of the object here. And then we're going to have to rotate it, because right now our material is not set to be two-sided. Pardon me. So it's a little trick of the shading engine here that it's not really two-sided there. So we're going to flip it around 180. Boom. And now we'll move it over. And let's go to our views here. We need not the front. I'm going to borrow the top for a second here. Put this on the back. Wireframe shaded. And as you can see, I can't see the cube at the moment. So what I'm going to do is just move this back a little bit until I can see the cube through it, which I still can't. I'm looking from the front. I see. This guy needs to be hidden real quick. There we go. Alright. Now we'll move him back and forth and make sure that he's all squared up. Right there. Good. Good to go. Okay, so this guy is going to be over here. So now looking from the back, we can see it, no problem. But now we had a problem here. If I unhide all, we get this guy is in the way, right? But from the front, we can see that just fine. Well, no problem. We're going to select all three of these. These are going to be our, these are going to be our references anyway. So we're not going to want all the same properties. So in here, we do not want them to be renderable. We do want them to be frozen, so freeze, but we don't want this show frozen in gray because otherwise we won't see the lines. So I'm going to uncheck that. And it should be backface culling. There we go. That should be what we want. See, now I can see through it this way to see the back. When I'm modeling here, I want to see the back. And then here when I'm modeling the front, I want to see that. And then on the side. So now we're all set. Okay, once again, we're going to save. And now we're just going to get started. So let's pick out some of the major forms, and we're going to start with those major forms and work our way through the rest of it. So some of the biggest things are the tube here, obviously, and then it connects to this thing. And then once we get past that thing and we get to the major core of this, it's a lot of overlapping shapes. And then this is a little complicated, but this we're going to make one and duplicate it. So let's start with the cylinder shape here, because that's pretty simple. I'm going to leave this here as my reference object, but it's not really going to be the actual object itself. So in the front view here, let's go ahead and drag out a cylinder. Need to be about that big. We're not going to worry about that yet. I'm going to give it 20 sides and only one height segment. Okay, now I'm going to worry more about where it's at and exactly the size of it. So a little bit less than that. That's good. Now, bringing up this, you have to make sure we're centered on the Y, and we are. Good, centered. The X, we're moving back and forth, obviously, because we're trying to center ourselves. The center should be over here, which is not right. Let's do that. Center that, and we will center this. And then we have to move our reference a little bit. So I'm going to unfreeze all. I'm going to select my reference here. And now that I know that the cylinder is centered, I'm going to move this until it lines up with that. There we go. Okay. Now let's just refreeze these things. 3 selected, no, 2 selected, 3 selected. Okay, we'll refreeze them. And everything else is checked the way we want, so we don't have to worry about doing that. There we go. Okay. So with that all set, let's do the cylinder again. Here we go. He's a little high up at the moment. Let's move him down just a tad. There we go. So now you can see here he's effectively zeroed on both the X and Y, and it's just the Z that we're worried about. Alright, so let's go to a side view. Here we go. And if I look at the reference image, I actually want to pull that up as well, because I have the turnaround, but I also want the other image as well. Open with in this picture view. There we go, because I can get this nice 3/4 angle to it. So this guy gets completely kind of swallowed by these little things here. So I'm going to build this to a certain point, build it out, curve it around, and then make the little fins off of that thing. So what that tells me is looking here, roughly it stops about here. So that's good. And then we're going to continue this guy, and he's just going to go all the way to the end. Something like that. There we go. Okay, so this is our tube. So let's work on the tube just by itself. So there we go. Let's call it something. There you go. Tube. So we know exactly what it is. Let's give it a standard setup. All right. So a couple things we know right away. I'm going to add a modifier, and we're going to remove this interface because we're not going to use that at all. Okay. And this N one we're not really going to use either for the purposes of you know, it's going to connect to more stuff. So I'm going to leave it here just so that we can see it. But in the end all, it's going to be deleted because it's going to be seamlessly added to everything else. But we're just going to leave that for now. And we're probably going to have some segments into this. It's not going to be just a solid pipe. So what we'll do is 3 segments. Okay. And this middle one, we're going to chamfer that just by 1 inch is fine. And we'll do a simple ring. Connect, extrude. We do want this on local. And let's go up about, actually 1 is good. Simpler numbers is fine. So that's all we really need for the low poly for this. For the high poly, we'll go in and put all the edging and all that. But for the low poly, we'll just go there. And these 2 lines here, we can remove those eventually. But these are for me for figuring out registrations for where we're going to put like rivets and that sort of thing. So that's good for now. Okay, so the pipe is essentially done at the moment. We're going to use parts of it to make the rest of it though. So I'm going to select faces, select these faces, and let's make a duplicate of this. So I'm going to detach as a clone. I'm just going to call this dupe because we're going to get rid of it eventually. Okay, so selecting dupe here. What I'm going to do is go to 2, around, and let's end isolate. So we'll go back to seeing everything. So I'm not actually using the pipe itself now. Okay, it's important to know. So using a little bit of both references here, I'm going to scale and shift outward. So I need about, looks like about that. Let's see how that lines up with all of this. Does that seem to match? It's pretty close, pretty close. So we'll go with that. Now I'm going to do the same trick, and we're going to go back to here. But then I'm going to have to scale outward. But I want to scale evenly here. So I'm going to look here to match this point, but I'm going to scale here. But only on these 2 axes. So right about there's good. And then bring it back. And this is going to go to here. Yep, right there. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to do a little bit of smoothing this out just a little bit, even though it doesn't exactly match the concept right now, because according to just how things are going to smooth and how they work, we're going to go for this a little bit. So a little bit less. Actually, no, that has to stay, so we'll do an additional one down the middle. What's that? Connective 1. Scale it out a little bit. There we go. Just wanted it to be a little softer around there. Now we have to create these little fin things that come off and connect to this. So save our work again. Now this is all with this dupe object, and we're not actually going to need, well, we'll keep it for now just because we don't know what we're going to need. Alright, so it looks like this connects how many times around? According to which of these? There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably 8 times. Let's do 6 and see how it goes. Because there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that are visible. So if we look at our tube here, because we use an even number tube size, we have 2 here, and then we have to skip and go to the others. So if I choose these, you'll see what I'm talking about. So if I choose these, that's a center 1 coming down, and then we skip, and we can choose again. So we skip 2, choose again, skip 2, and then these are going to be kind of swallowed up by the design, but we want to make sure that they might be a little bit visible down here right before they go into the end. You can see it in the concept here a little bit. Let me see if I can point it out. So right below my cursor here, you can see that there is a point where those designs sort of end on the bottom, but we're going to use that to our advantage. Okay, so with these, we don't actually need these faces that are technically here. So I'm going to delete those for now. And we'll select these that like we had. Let's get those going. Get those going every two. There we go. And now what we're going to do is extrude. And we don't need to extrude that much. Let's see if we can hide the tube for now. Even though these are connecting to the tube, I need to see this to see how far. So let's extrude. And it's very little bit. It's only about that much. And we're going to angle them and all that in just a second. So from the looks of it, the angle on the top is quite smooth. It follows around here quite smoothly, but the sides are totally flat, kind of like they are now. So that works to our advantage, okay? All right, so here's what we can do is ring this, and we're going to do a connect. I'm going to slide it inwards until we get really low, something like this. Something like that is good. Okay, so we've got that little connection point down there, and the reason that's important is we're going to take these, and what I ideally would love to do is move these in such a way that we kind of end up with like this, because that gives us that curvy shape. Problem is, see how it cuts out here? We don't really like that too much, so what we could do is tell it to follow edge design. So if we follow the edge, curve at the edge, we'll bring it down, then bring it back up a bit. Now that follows sharply, and that's pretty good. But we want to do that for all of these in the same way. So there's two ways we could do that. We could do some clever scaling, or what we can do is just do it once, and then we can mirror the object around. I think that's probably what we're going to do because it's a lot cleaner. Okay, let's bring these down a bit more and back in. We're gonna have to just back and forth a little bit here. Get that curve going nicely. I'm gonna bring these just by themselves, and then bring that back a bit. And then I'm going to turn off edging and do it manually a little bit. Okay, there we go. That's pretty nice. That's what we got going on there. Okay, so with that all set, since this is pretty solid, we got 2, and then 2 spaces, 2, 2 spaces, 2 all the way around. What we can do is actually select all of this. I'm going to select just this, and then 1 and 1. And let me make sure this, yes, okay, we have a center pivot. So that's what's going to allow us to do this. So with this selected, I'm going to do a control invert and delete the rest of it. Okay, we got rid of it, yes. But now we can make copies on a rotational axis. So if I make copies like so, oh, 70 and 75, I need to do 72.5, so I need to change my rotational scaling. Let's see, angle 0.5. So now if I go 72.5, 72, pardon me. And I need 5 additional copies. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, no, 4 additional copies. There we go. There we go. All right, so I'm going to select the first one. Oh, let's hide our box for now. I'm going to select the first one that we did, which is still called dupe, and I'm going to attach the others to it. Okay, now let's select all of our vertices, and we're going to weld them together, because we did have some, because there are extra verts at all the intersection points there. Okay, that's pretty good. Now we have one more problem. I say, it's not really a problem. Is this area, it's technically a quad, but it does look a little weird. We could put connection points in there and draw a line between those. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'll clean that up as we get closer to the end of the project. But you know, don't be afraid of what looks like weird triangles. Just make sure it's quads if you're going to go for subdivision, which we are. So that's why we're doing that. Okay. I'm going to give this some smoothing just so it looks nicer while we work on it. Clear all auto smooth. There we go. And now if I turn off the edged faces, you'll see how it looks. So that's pretty good. That's what we're looking for. All right, let's unhide all. And we'll hide our box just temporarily. So we have our tube, and we have this thing, and it's connected right there. Now let's make the box that thing connects to. So looking at our back view here, see it doesn't quite match both sides, and that's a problem you'll have with concept art, is that it's not going to be exact, because this is a drawing, you know, unless he modeled it ahead of time, which wouldn't make a lot of sense because that's what I'm doing. So don't worry too much about it. Okay, 5 and 42, and let's say 56. Okay. And now I'm going to make sure that's centered and see-through. Okay, so there we go. So this needs a little bit of adjustment, but that's okay. Let's go and do our edit poly. Whoa! Craziness went on there. There we go. It lost focus and then suddenly started shouting everywhere. There we go. Top. No. Ah, there we go. Okay. Top viewport, because we're going to start using that very shortly here. Okay. So now these guys, we got to figure out how big is this? How thick is this? So he comes over to about here. Right there. So he's a little thicker. So we're going to do the rest of this by hand, because the box just gets us kind of a close approximation, and then we take over and say, okay, I'm going to make sure all the seams work and all that kind of stuff by hand. So that's no problem. All right. Let's bring you up. Bring you down a little bit. There we go. All right, go to edges, and I'm going to select all these corners. I'm going to unselect across here, which means what I have now is just these edges here. And now I can go back here, and we're going to chamfer them up. And I'm definitely going to need at least 2, maybe more. We'll see how far this goes. Yeah, we're going to need more. Probably 4. So I'm going to make sure I get the curve first. Then I'm going to go back with the verts and kind of extend out the shape a little bit. There we go. Okay, good. Now this shape is going to need some cleanup, so we're going to work on that next. Fortunately, for this particular shape, the back of this is not really going to be seen or used, so we're going to just get rid of that. Now this does have not an intricate pattern, but a pattern that's cut into the front of the face. But first I'm going to make sure that the face works the way it should. Okay. Alright, so first up, I'm going to just do the big stuff first, okay? So I'm going to go across like that. And I'm just putting these edges in here because we need to kind of quantify it to make it, you know, smoothable at the end of all things. So let's cut across. Okay, now obviously that doesn't fully work yet because we have these corners to deal with. But if you notice, if I do this and say connect, now I have 2 quads in there. Okay, so the reason the 4 is good for the corners, we're doing that because I know that this is what ends up with it. You've done it enough, you have lots of practice with it. So, speaking of lots of practice, what I'm going to do here is divide it down the center, because we're going to do a mirror, because, you know, why work harder than you have to? Work smarter, not harder. Alright, save this. Save. I'm going to do a save as well, just to make sure. I always do this, so this is the first water pump that we're going to be creating, and this is the first version of this file, so then I do like 2_2_3, that kind of thing. Okay, so now I'm going to delete half of it, now that I've made this nice shape. Now, we need to cut this pattern into here. So the pattern I see goes across the top, and then we come across, down, down, in, over, down, and it probably repeats this way too. So what we're going to do here is, it doesn't quite repeat that way, unfortunately, but we can kind of trick it. Okay, so I'm going to do this way as well. Connect, there we go. and delete this. So we're going to make use of a double. Double. All right. Now what I need to do is cut across here, and then across the seam, and then down. Yeah, and then we just have to alter it a little bit. So if I just do a connect on that, that's what we get, which is still perfectly good. And then it's in here that we get a little funky. So in here what I need is 2 edges. Let me see. Cut in, over, down. Yeah, it looks like 2 edges. So I'm going to do 2 edges, okay? And it comes down, and then we got to sharply in and down again. So this is the sharply in. So let's bring this up, like so, and then take this guy over, like that, in and down again, just like that. All right. So now here's what we're going to do is, before we indent it, we're going to before we indent it, we have to fix a couple things. We've got 5-sided quads in here, which there's an easy way to fix that, and it'll actually help us smooth out this curve a bit more, which is cool. And then we're gonna mirror it and then move this thing, and then we'll indent, okay? So first up, I'm gonna select this and do a connect. Oh, no, connect with 1. Sorry, I gotta reset that. And I'm gonna do the same thing over here, this and connect. Now that looks really sloppy and weird and stupid at first, but what that does is this is center between these 2 points. So now what I do is target weld and take this guy over to here, and this guy over to here. So now I have quads and quads. And now I can take these and I can even it out. So if I go over here, one of the things I can do, I can try and use the edge trick and say move out evenly along this edged surface. That's a good way to kind of even that out. Something like that. There we go. Very nice. Okay. So now, before we indent, we have to mirror and then move these. By mirror, I mean symmetry. I'm going to use symmetry. This is what I keep saying mirror, but it's not really what I'm doing. So add 2 symmetries on 2 different axes. And because we worked off of that center point, everything should still be lining up nicely. And now I'm going to add an edit poly on top of the whole thing. Now, from what I can see on the list here, it looks like this and this. I need to bring down some more. Something more like that. There we go. See how it's not quite mirrored? That's why we did the first step first, and then we're going to move it after we mirror everything. Okay, and now we can select all of our faces in the middle, and everything's quadified, so we're all good. I'm going to select all of these. If I do that, I should be able to grow the selection. Yeah, there we go. And now we need to indent. So we're going to extrude negatively. About that far is good. Okay. I don't know if the screen is getting dark for you guys, but I'm going to disable this thing for an hour to help my eyes. There we go. Okay, so we're all set. All quads. Everybody's happy. No problems. So I'm going to call this tube main connection. Okay, just have to give it a name. Now let's give it our standard setup here. So that, and we'll give it the smoothing treatment for now, just so you guys can see it more clearly. There we go. It's looking good. So let's end our isolation and take a look at what we got so far. So we've got that going on, and that connects to it. There we go. Okay. So I think the next thing we're going to do is this bottom part here. We'll figure this part out here. All right. So it looks like it's a box. If I use this here as my example, okay, you guys can see the concept down here, but this is my bigger. It's basically a box if we break it down, and of course it has to curve and cut out for the tube here. Oh, I'm getting a question, getting a message. Oh, absolutely. Okay, so it's a box, and we got to keep up with this curve. A couple of details cut into it at the end. That's okay. This cuts down, no problem. We cut around there, and then these are the complicated parts. So let's just work it out. So I'm going to start with a box, and let's go to our front viewport. And I need to hide some of these other things. So I'll hide those. I'm going to keep the tube because we're going to need to be able to see where the tube is at. All right, box. So that's this thing here. So we'll start here at the bottom, work our way up, over, up like so. Okay, I don't really care how tall it is at the moment. So it looks like it's 32 inches and 44 inches. Okay, good. And I'm going to make sure it's centered. And right here, here we go. All right, so this box begins, it looks like it begins right here, because it starts, no, it starts where this thing connects. It starts way back here. There we go. All right, and I don't care how tall it is, so let's add an edit poly, and we can get started on it. So we'll move this front face, obviously, all the way to the end. Okay, and start throwing some edges in here. So let's throw an edge over here. I'm gonna throw an edge here at this line. So I think, oh no, right here. Here's where it kind of comes down, right there. That's a good spot for one. And it looks like the bottom of this, yeah, the bottom of this is not quite correct, like drawn. It's supposed to be slightly in perspective. So I'm going to make the very bottom like around here. So we'll make this, but we'll move it down. And now we're going to need to break this up here. So obviously these are going to have all of their own little segments to them. But what I'm going to do is do my very best here to kind of create one, and then we will, duplicate it. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'm going to go all the way to like these center points if I can. Roughly like that. There we go. Okay. And let's do another one this way to figure out where the bottom of that thing is going to be. I'm going to give myself a little bit of room. Something like that. Okay. And now all I'm going to care about for the next couple minutes is this. Okay. So let's look at what is that. That is that. The other thing we're going to do, let's create a central line. So we can do half and mirror over, that kind of thing. We'll delete that. There we go. Welcome to the new viewers. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. Working on a prop model here, so I'm kind of explaining the process as I go through it. So if you guys are new to modeling, this is going to be some really good information here. If you guys are seasoned veterans, you guys are all pros, as you know. So just kind of follow along. If you guys have any questions, comments, please feel free to jump in. All right, so we kept our tube here because we're going to need to follow that. Now, one thing that we could do is do a Boolean operation, which would be good. That would cut it out for us exactly. And then we can kind of ease it a little bit, and that gives us a little bit of extra room. I think we will do that. And if we're going to do that, we'll just do it to the one piece. Okay. So let's select this. This is our exact piece here. And make a duplicate of it. So I want to make sure I work on it and not have to edit the actual piece. So detach as clone. There we go. So I'm gonna call this tube rest. It's the thing that it rests on, just so I know what it is. And hide selection. There we go. Now, even though this is not going to be technically geometry, I'm going to do that to it. Okay. All right. We're doing well. Now, selecting this, I'm going to take this and make a duplicate of this. So say detach, clone, temp 1, so I know to delete it. And let's hide this. Okay. Making lots of duplicates of things. And here I'm going to modify this slightly, bring this over, just so it goes past. So I'll show you what I'm doing here. We're going to cut this out. See, we're going to have those operations added for us. Now, what I probably need first, though, is this has to have some kind of sides to it. So let's do that real quick. Even though these won't exist in the end, I need these inner edges here to be solid. It'll all make sense in a second. Okay, so now, last little bit here, we're going to cap these off at the ends. So now, technically, I have two solid shapes intersecting one another. Not quite solid yet. There we go. There we go. Okay. And one last trick, I'm going to take these and make a duplicate again. This is because in case one doesn't work out, then I don't lose my my kind of cookie cutter shapes. So this is the shape I care about, and I want to cut this out of it. So I go here and say extended compound. There you go, compound, and pro boolean. Subtraction is the default. Start picking and choose this object. There we go. That's what we wanted. All right. So now we can get rid of these objects. So I'm going to delete them. And now if I select this object and say unhide by name, we want our tube breast and our tube. So unhide that. There we go. And now what I can do here, this is a pretty neat trick. I'm going to take this guy and convert him to an editable poly. And of course I can get rid of the faces that I don't care about. I don't care about this or this or this. I don't really even care about this internal face, but I'm going to keep it for just a moment. If I turn on my edged faces just so we can see everything at once, I'm going to snap this guy right in there. So now I have what I need for this way. And now from that, if I create what I need this way, it should all work out. Okay. So this goes all the way to there, but we don't actually need this front face to it. So if I take this and delete that, there you go. Okay, excellent, excellent. So now I'm going to take all of these, and we need to give it just a little bit of room, just a little bit of room. So let's go to vertices. I'm going to unselect these and just a little bit, just like that. Just so that it's sitting there, but it's not sitting directly on it. There we go. Okay. All right, so once again, we can hide this for now. We can hide the tube for now. So we're just gonna work on this guy. And once again, what I'm gonna do here is center his pivot, because the pivot is way over here because of the way it was with the box. And I will duplicate this just in case we totally mess it up. And save. Well, welcome to the new viewers. You guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. Alright, so here we are from the side. We just need to cut out this shape, and it's pretty easy. Over, down, over, diagonal, up, that kind of thing. Okay? And now that we've centered to our pivot, we can do the center line like this, and we can even mirror it over. So that'll make it even easier. So we'll just delete that. And now, let's take this. This is actually going to come down a bit. But let's do it from the top just in case, okay? So let's do this. We'll do a connection, and I'm going to move them to about there. And we'll do a connection this way. Move him to about there, just kind of set him on it. Now we need this connection here across the gap here. A couple ways we can do that. What I like to do here is I will take this and delete this because we don't need that. So essentially this is what we're creating. And now if we do edges, let's make sure those edges do exist. Yeah, we'll do this. Take these guys and move them out this way. And moving with the S key, which I love, let's go to snaps and snap that together. Okay, and I have to weld these because those are two different vertices on top of each other. There we go. Alright. Then what we want to do essentially is round these edges off. So if we make that invisible again, do our trick again where we select those. We have that. Do my trick in here, and we're going to select this one that's on the vertex by itself. There you go. See it? Alright, so now let's see what we can get here. A chamfer, we're probably going to need two. Oops, two. And let's up it a bit. Let's go like that. I'm going to clean it up. Don't worry. It's a little weird right now. Let's take a look. Now, what's giving us some trouble is right here. See? So let's undo that real quick. And I think what we're going to do here is separate this yet again so that we can have two separate objects here. And I will break this apart. So this time I'm going to do a break, but I'm not going to choose. I'm just going to say there's a wholly other object. And that breaks it right there, that seam. Alright, so now if we do our chamfer, which it'll remember our settings, so we were kind of happy with that, so we'll leave it there. And that way we can work that into this a little bit better. If it's a separate piece, it's a little easier. Oh, good. Apparently Tom is watching, or Joe, rather, sorry, Joe, Tom. Joe, so if you're watching, thank you for watching. I hope you're enjoying. Alright, so we have to clean this up, obviously. One thing that we can do here, this is pretty simple, is I'm going to select this and choose its coordinate. And that way, when I go to weld all these things up, like this, if I start to collapse everything, so you start to say, okay, you can go to there. This center guy, they're going to have to connect to one another, like that. Go. And as we start to kind of clean this up and simplify, I can say, hey, you. Just paste that value in. Say, move over to there. So now that's better like that. And now we can connect these. Thank you, sir. Thank you, appreciate that. And we'll do like that. There we go. And the same thing here, but I'm just going to choose the Z-axis, which is up and down in max. And there we go. And now technically we don't need this or this. If we remove those, we're qualified. There we go. Okay. And up here we got to do the same thing, but what we're going to do is a little bit different. I'll make my cuts, but I'm going to make them definitely not lined up. There's no point in trying to eyeball it necessarily, because I'm a human being, I'm gonna mess it up. There we go. Okay. Now we do have to make another connection down and around, but we'll deal with that shortly. Okay, so that is pretty good. Now this is a bit smoother than it is in the concept. So what we could do even is say, you know what? Sorry, I made a mistake. Let's just remove that. Oops. Can't remove that one. I have to remove this, but we can do that. There we go. But now we have this corner, but that's okay. We're still going to come down with that, so we'll clean up that corner in a bit. Technically, that corner is fine, but people freak out when they see triangles. Okay, so the same thing up here, actually. So let's just do that while we're thinking of it. So we'll just remove you, and there you go. That makes this a lot easier to clean up as well. All right. So using this as our template, let's do a symmetry, and we're going to do cross the line Z. There we go. And go to the front. Now we need to make sure that, oops, don't remove the whole object. We're going to move the mirror. We need to make sure this mirror is moving to exactly this point. So I'm going to select that. Let me make sure it's the correct thing. Yeah, the Y value. Copy. Now go to the mirror object here. Let's turn off that. And for the mirror, I'm going to put its Y value to the same. There we go. So now that's exacting across. And then we can just continue to duplicate, that kind of thing. First, though, we do have to clean up this curve detail here, because it has to curve inward this way, but curve this way. Now it does look like, according to the diagram, that it does stop at a certain point. I think that's this center beam thing here. This looks like this comes down. So that's what I'm gonna go with. So it does stop at some point, but that point is not till way back here. All right. So if we take all of this, see how this continues all the way to here. So it has to follow this curve the whole time. So actually the easiest way to do that would be just to do that. Okay, we'll do that. Alright, so we're going to go all the way to there. There we go. And then we're going to use this object to our advantage. So I'll take this object and basically use it as a cutting tool. And say go all the way that way. Go all the way this way. And I should be able to cut that out of that shape. Yep, okay, I know how to do that. Alright, so now what we're going to do here is I'm going to use a neat little tool that comes with Max. Is this clay feature. And now everything looks really weird now. But you notice how there's basically light sides and dark sides. That tells me where my normals are at. And a normal is kind of like a line for the you don't know. It shoots out of a surface and tells it which side is kind of real to the engine and which side is going to render as completely invisible. And when things are flipped inside out, they look weird. So what we're going to do here is go back to our shaded edge faces. This thing actually needs to be flipped, so I'm going to select all of the faces and choose flip. Now it doesn't look any different to us now, but now think of it as instead of it being this as being the positive surface, this is now the positive surface, okay? Because I need to cut this out of this shape. Alright, so now I'm going to take all of this and I need to make a solid object out of it. It's the best way that seems to work. So we're going to select the edges and go like this. This looks really weird at first, but it'll work out. Okay, we'll select that, bridge, and now by doing that, but skipping, I can do capping on these. There we go. So caps those off. Save. And once again, I'm gonna take this object and I'm going to remove the symmetry for now. I'm gonna make a duplicate of it just in case I mess it up. And I'm gonna duplicate our. Oh no, can't do that. Actually, yeah, there you go. That's what we need to do. Now, if you notice, this object has a, let's see, an x of 11, so we'll keep track of that. So we'll make a duplicate just in case we mess up our boolean. Okay. Just like before, I'm going to go here and say boolean subtract b. B is this object. There we go. So that's what I want subtracted. Just like that. So now, if we make this an editable poly again, if we turn back on our symmetry, and on the z-axis, we'll move it over, let's get the position again. It's just like solving a puzzle. There we go. Now we have an object that curves in two different directions. Very cool. Alright, so we can get rid of these other objects here. We don't need them. So let's delete those. Now, from the front here, what I'm going to do is with the whole object selected with the symmetry, I'm going to turn on the edit poly so we can just edit it right away. And I'm going to make a couple duplicates. Let's figure out how many we need. So that would be, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 duplicates. So I'm going to move it until it's not quite next to it on purpose. There we go. So now I can snap them all together. Okay. So using the snapping tool, just kind of bring these together. Go. There we go. Pretty simple. There we go. Okay. Now, we still have to solve that problem, but that's okay. That's not hard. I probably should have done that before we did all of those pieces, but I want to see it together. So now we need to fill in these gaps. Even though we're going to have a tube sitting on it, I mean, you might not see that gap. I want to fill it in because we might have one where the tube's not there, that kind of thing. Okay? So let's go to this one, and we're going to solve the issue with this guy before we move on to the others. So save again. So I'm going to make a line here that goes all the way across. But I'm not going to choose those first ones because we're going to connect it through to that. So I do connect, and what I need here is it needs to connect to both of those, so I need to pinch it. Not slide, pinch. And pinching is not working. That's okay. We can work with this. So I'm going to take this point again using this trick here and move these two to line up with that, and vice versa over here. There we go. Now we don't need all this in here, but This does need to connect somehow, so we're going to figure that out in a second. Okay, connect. And I'm curious. See, this is one of the things I do sometimes is you kind of think out loud once you get it going. That would be that, that would be that. Seeing it with all the other pieces together kind of helps sometimes too. So let's do this. So if I do like that, actually one thing we can do, this is pretty cool. This is a really cool trick. If I do an instance, now when I do snapping, there we go. Now anything I do to this one, it's going to duplicate it over to this one. So for instance, if I move this point, the other one follows suit. Okay. So this is really helpful for when you're trying to figure out things like this. Like I'm thinking to myself, I can get rid of these triangles and I can do something like this where I bring all these down together. And now I have two triangles here, but I could get rid of that middle thing and now it's all quadded up and fine. So that's pretty good. But using the second one next to it, I can see how it's going to continue in the pattern to know that that's a good move. So for example, I'm going to move these up a bit and scale them out a bit, something like that, and then down just a little bit. Trying to even it out so that it's not so abrupt. Okay. And now I'm going to change the design just a little bit. And it's okay. I'm allowed. I'm going to move these things. Yeah, they should be fine. So now if I scale these in just a little bit, we can kind of I'm evening out here. Okay. And that gives me a lot better flow for everything. It's going to be easier to get edges in here in order to get the high poly done later, so that'll be a lot easier to get all that through there. Now, do have a couple things we need to finish and fix. Is each of these needs a connection, so what I need to do is go in here and I'm going to select the edges. This back one is pretty easy to satisfy, this guy. So we're going to do that first. So connect. I'll slide them along. I'm going to guesstimate right about there. Probably 81 is best. There we go. Okay. And now go to vertex. Connect. Yeah, pretty close. And connect. Now we could do that for all of them. We're going to reach a point here where it's a little too steep. I'd rather go this way, would be better. And that can just loop around, that's fine. We can go down with these two though, and then one this way. So that'll be fine. Alright, so edges 2, 2. I need to kind of guesstimate that one. Let's see if I can do that this way. Connect. Oh, right. They're on the front. Slide. A little bit higher. Probably, yeah, 56 is my guess. Let's see how I did. You can always tell when you connect them to see how, oh, yeah, nice. There we go. And see that goes straight across, so we still have quads. So we're still good there. And now we do the same thing across these two. Now, one trick you can do is if you get just the right angle here, I can zoom in here and do a cut tool and say cut from this vertex to this vertex. But it doesn't seem to want to be liking that angle today. That's okay. We'll do it this way. Okay, that vertex, yep, all good there. And then one more time. Right? Yeah. All of that and connect. And he's going to back just a little bit, something like that. There you go. Okay, let's connect all this up. Almost had it. Pretty good for eyeballing it though. And this is probably shallow as well. Yeah, just slightly shallow. By shallow, I mean it's it's leaning a little bit this way. For these, I could correct that by taking all of these, and I'm just going to move them just a little bit, like that, to kind of line up. Doesn't have to be totally perfect. It's just one of those things when you're doing it, you're like, oh, I really want to make it perfect. Okay, very cool. So that will line up nicely. So I'm going to delete this other one over here, and now this guy is the only one here. So we'll save. And before we duplicate him all over the place, let's go ahead and give him some smoothing. Clear all, auto smooth. Okay, we won't give him a name just yet because he's going to be something in the end. Let's do that. Oops, what did I do? Okay. All right, so he's all good. So I'll save the file again. And I think we said it was 6. So we'll do that and do 6. Okay. Now we can snap them all together and they should be good to go. And then we can mirror them across, and we still need to make that other piece that's going to go in the middle there, but that's okay. Okay. All right. Looking really good. Okay, so save that. And now what I'm going to do is attach all these together. Oh, you know what? Yeah, that's what happened. I forgot to uncheck the instance, and I have to say make unique. So yeah, these are all unique now. So now they can be attached. Otherwise, they were not really a thing, so they weren't up for attaching. All right, and again, it's weld our vertices because we do have vertices right at those edges where everything meets. You see it there, the number changes. Okay. Now there's technically a symmetry in there. We're going to throw another one in the mix to mirror across the center axis. So let's go to the center. And choosing the mirror, we're going to say 0 on the X. There you go. So that bar is going to be in the middle there. Okay. So that bar will be in the middle, and then the tube sits in the top. So let's see how all that looks. We may not need these faces after all in the middle here, but unhide by name. Let's unhide our tube and our tube rest. Okay, so tube rest is this whole thing here, and what we need to do is we can now get rid of some of the faces in it because we've created them like that. And let's go to here, and we need one more edge. Right at the end there where the rest of this takes over, so that we can now select all the faces involved in this top section and delete those. Okay. Now let's give this our standard coloring with our standard material. There we go. Now we can look at it a little bit better. So if we have that bar that sits in there, you're not even going to see those insides because it's all connected by the tube. So, all right, let's unhide everything actually, and just hide our box for now. This is just our how big everything is kind of box. There we go. Okay, so we see where we need to cut some stuff out here. That's okay. That kind of just gets buried in there. We don't want geometry underneath here that we're never going to see or use because that's pointless. So. Okay, so that's mirrored. This guy needs some mirroring. Let's just throw that in there so we can see what's going on. Okay, very cool. I can do a quick render. My rendering is set to default, which I don't like. Got a big, powerful computer for a reason. do that. And let's go to environment. Change it up. Like that, it's a little better. And show see, there we go. Much nicer. So you can see how it's looking in there. See how the light is catching, that's an important thing. Ah, thank you, sir. Yeah, appreciate it. You see how the light's catching, and obviously we have some seams to weld up there. Let's just cut it quickly, and we can see where everything goes, and we need to cut now into here. That's our next section there, okay? So let's do that next, I guess. We'll cut that out, and we'll make that little center part, and then we can start cutting out the shapes in the bottom around here. Doing well so far, guys. We're an hour in. Let me take a quick water break. If you guys do have any questions, please let me know. Anything you're curious about, I'm happy to answer them. Alright. So this needs to go all the way back, actually. It's something I noticed in here, so let's do that. Move it back, move it back, move it back until it disappears into this thing. Just like that. Come through a little bit. We don't want to come through too much, but it does need a light, tight seam. That way when we bake the textures, we don't see anything go through that we don't need. Okay. I'm going to call this tube catch, just so it's not called dupe anymore, because we did duplicate it and we're done with that. Alright, so next up, let's cut out this back section here and cut that the way it's supposed to be cut. And then we'll work on the center thing here, because it does kind of protrude slightly. We have a detail on this side to do, and then we can shape the front profile of this and get our tube looking nicely. I'm going to make a second material here just for the tube. I'm going to call this call this dark gray. I know, very original. We'll call this model gray. This is for anything that we're making, we just throw that on there. And so for the dark gray, let's darken that up a little bit. There you go. Just so it kind of matches our concept a little bit better, so we can definitely tell what's the tube and what is the actual pump that we're building here. Okay. So now we need to cut this shape out, and we have this is in the way and this is in the way. A little bit. I say in the way, it's just things that we have to account for. So according to my concept art here, I see two different lines. Not really sure which one is which, so I'm going to go with the one that looks most correct. Let's see, that's there. The back is not going to give us any help. Okay, so I see what I've got going on here. Alright. So let's hide all of this. And I'm just going to work with this for right now. Okay, and we're just going to work on following this line. You can see there's also this line, but I think that's something else. I think that's, I'm not quite sure what that is else, but it's something else. So I'm going to follow this line, which is clear and defined and matches kind of the other perspective. Okay. So yeah, we'll turn off the symmetry for now. And we need to start cutting. So what we need here is division along here. Whoops. No, that's fine. Okay, there wasn't one there before. There we go. One right there. And we already have our line here. I didn't put it entirely accurately where it's supposed to go. But right there. And I'm going to do another one right where I want that corner to be. Right there. So now I'm going to delete all of this, all of that. There we go. And this little piece here, if I weld him up, that's our little edge there. Okay. Now, according to the concept art, let me hold that one up here. Okay. According to the concept art, there's a little bit of a turned edge here, so we'll have to work that out because it marries up to the inside of this. So what I'm going to do is just select this and going into the front viewport and try to be as accurate as I can. sort of like this, and then it has a split down the middle. Okay? Kind of like that. But then we got to split it, so we'll split it nice and even like here, and then I'll move that out manually. Curve that out. There we go. Now the difficulty comes in the fact that this has to go up and flatten out with this guy. So what I'm going to do is move these back a little bit because move these vertices back a little bit because right at that edge is kind of tough. You need to have a little bit of an angle to it. Something like that. It's pretty good. Usually it's kind of like that. It curves up into it. Okay. So now this guy obviously and this guy need to have about that wide, and we need two edges. But I want to try and collapse it as much as I can. And you'll see what I mean by collapsing it. So this, I want two edges. And then here we can start to collapse it down into one. And then we'll move forward from there. Okay. So this guy, put vertices. Snap it over to there. And I'm going to weld this up. Good. Edges. This guy and this guy connect. So now I should be able to merge these into it. So I got to figure out the height of this. I'm going to move this guy up to that height, but I'm going to use the edge constraint on. And you'll see what that does. Paste. So he stayed along with this edge, which means he stayed along with this face, but he went up to that height. So now same thing here, copy, and the edge is still on, so boom, he does the same thing. So they connect nicely. And let's turn that off. Okay, now we're going to do the same trick this way. X, copy, take U2, paste, and X again. Now here's where I got to take this guy as well. And we'll do that. Okay. Perfect. So far. So you're going to go into U. Actually, you are going to... Nope. You're going to bridge into U with a 1 connection. The reason for this, you'll see in a second, is I'm going to give myself a little bit of a buffer there where I can start to kind of smooth it out, and it'll work out nicely. So right in the center is good. And these guys are going to start to go up. So I'm going to go back to the edge and turn that on. And from this side, bring that up a bit. Turn the edge off. Bring this over a bit. Okay. And now we just kind of bridge this one. Okay. Connect. There you go. Okay. Now this can kind of fade off. It could even just merge directly into it. But I'm going to wait until I get just around the corner. So something like this. Create a connection point here. Bring it down a little bit like so, and then kind of blend it off, connect. So now from here up, all of this can be one all the way across, and this gives us that kind of smoothing that we're looking for. So if I take all of this, if I'm correct, and we say clear all, auto smooth, I should see a nice gradient to what we're looking for here. And it didn't quite work out the way I wanted it. Let's see. What is that? That is spin group 1, 1, 1, 1, 3. It goes to 3 all of a sudden. So let's do all of these on 2. How does that look? Good, and then these are going to be on, these are on 3, so these are on 2 and 3. The lighting here is not the best, but that will end up being a lot better. Okay, and then all of these edges, we can collapse these over time as well as we move across. So for example, all of these can go across, they can go all the way over now if they really want to. Just these have to remain here for this edge, so this has to remain here. But even up here, we could collapse this all the way over. Yeah, we can collapse, like that, and then all of this is fine. So let's take this x value, which is 0, of course. So we'll just 0 all that out. That's all zeroed out. And now U and U and bridge, all that's fine. Yep, there we go. So now we get that little curve that they wanted, little curve, and we follow that up, and we could even bring that back in and loop it around. Probably be a good idea because we'll have something more over there, I'm sure. But for now, that's pretty good. Let's do you guys. And I'm going to scale on the X until they're flat, which you can do this way too. There's a button down here for that. There we go. Now I'm going to choose all of these except, actually, just the center one. Can go to X. And then these other two are going to get welded, because that's where they're going to go anyway. Perfect. All right. So that's all set. Let's do a save. Do a render. That all looks weird. Let's just let it figure it out for itself. The lighting here is not always best for collecting those angles, but in Engine it follows the geometry a lot better, and it'll look tons better. And I do think I want to fix that. I want to just continue that anyway. So I'm just going to do some just straight up cutting. So cut, and cut over there. And then I can just take this value and say that's where these all go. But you might have to do them one at a time. I just copied instead of pasted. Sometimes when you do this, if they are not the same exact spot, the exact same value, and you paste, what you get is this strange sort of an average. I haven't quite, done the research and the math to tell you exactly, but it does end up looking and feeling a bit odd. Okay, and then you are not necessary, and that will help everything be better. Okay. There you go. All right. Good. So we have that going on, and let's see how that looks with everything else. So let's unhide by name. We want basically everything else. We don't want our box though. Okay, so this is still jutting in way too much, so we really should cut that out. So let's take these two things and isolate them for a bit. And what we can do here is just some cuts and do it manually, but we'll make it a nice curve and make sure that we follow the line here. One thing we can do is if I select these faces, I think that's as deep as it needs to go. Yeah, just these faces. Can I do that? Yeah, we can do that. Okay. Delete that for now just because it'll make it easier. I'm just going to take these faces and I'm going to invert my selection. And we're going to go down here. And in here, hide selected. There you go. So hide everything else. Okay. Now, I might be able to, should be able to, if I go to the front view, yeah. There is a way that you can do a cut with the 3D snap set to 2D, 2.5 rather, pardon me, that you can cut through this face while still respecting sort of the vertex angle. I don't think that did what I wanted to. No, so that's fine. We'll do it ourselves. I want to kind of stay outside of it just a little bit anyway. don't think it's respecting. I'm cutting from the wrong side. That makes sense. I'm going to cut from the back. And see here, I'm going to make a little bit of a liberty and say cut right on that line. So that way I already have that edge connection. I don't have to make a new one. There we go. Okay. Yep. Alright, so all of that is going to go away. Very good. And now we need to solve all of this. Okay. So this is 5. See? 4 is good. And these can be 2 4s. But just take this edge. But first, a good idea now is to unhide our geometry, because we're affecting other things now. Okay. So by looping around here, we can create 2 connections. So I'll do one right about there. And again, we can correct the exact positioning in a moment. Another one. Right about there. Now for this guy down at the bottom, he's gonna have trouble, because we're gonna come across and we don't really want to divide through there, but we can if we need to. So for example, we could move this a bit, and that would give us the free rein to do something like this. If I do a connection through here, it's a little messy at first. And we'll move. Oh. It looks weird at first. We'll do an edge move. I'm going to edge move this up just a little bit, kind of smooth that out. And why it's not letting me see my other vertices? Very strange. Okay. We have no hidden vertices, right? I guess we did have hidden vertices. That's strange. Shouldn't have. Anyway, so we can connect that to there, and then this guy can connect here. And there we go. We kind of solved that whole area. And yes, we have some triangles here, but that's okay. Triangles are not bad. Alright, so now let's connect these up. It's actually pretty good eyeballing. Look at that. Nice. Okay. Alright, and isolate. There we go. So now we have cut out around all of our shapes, except for one. This one. So we did all of this. We did all of this correctly, except for the fact that it has to go a little bit lower. Let's go. Okay, so this whole thing has to be down here. So I think we need to, yeah, take more of this with us. There we go. Now that makes this a little bit weird, but we can move these up now. So this can come up. It's gonna follow that shape better. And if this guy comes up, it gets a little weird in here. So it's kind of almost better if we take this and we go over. And it's a little weird at first, but we do 0 on that. And down just beneath the curve of that thing. Something like that. And then when we target weld this, again, yes, it's a triangle, that's okay, because when we symmetry it over, it becomes a quad. Okay. Very good, very good. Now I think this is all good if I take this and bring it down to be in that line. Very good. Okay. All right. Oh, we do need pardon me, let me check on that. Yeah. This is intruding into the pipe, so we need to cut that out too. So let's see how we can do that. We can probably reuse some of our other geometry. Unhide all, just hide our box. There we go. Yeah, we can probably use some of that shape for ourselves. All right, let's line these up. So I cut these out, but the exact lineup doesn't match. Come on. Come on. That's really strange. It's not lining up with that vertex. Okay, let's try something. Move it back quite a bit. Wow, that's really weird. That's very strange. Okay, let's try something real quick. So we'll do an edit poly on top of this. So that way it's technically solid now. I don't know quite the better term for that, but it's solid. And now if I can snap to it, but it's not moving. Oh, you know what? Are we still on? No, we're not on edge. That is very strange behavior. Okay, well, more than one way to do this, so that's fine. So I'll take this guy and we'll just get this value. I thought snapping would be easier, but I guess not. Okay, so we'll select all of those. There we go. So now they're lined up with that, so when we merge all of this together as one big object, it'll all work out. And if I render, you shouldn't see that gap anymore. Nope. No gap. Okay. All right. Very good. Let's close off this top. Now that we have that working. Oh yeah, see, the triangle becomes all set. Okay, so we want to close off the top here because it's not doing us any favors with the render. So do that, and then we'll do that. I'm hoping I can snap here. No, it's almost like the snap is off. My snaps got weird. I'm gonna have to look into that. Oh, I'm still on 2.5D, that's why. Boom, 3D snaps again. There we go. Okay, so let's weld those together. Alright. Okay, now this part back in here we're going to have to handle next time because this is going to be all that interior and what's actually covered by the shapes and what's not. But we got a good start going on here. We actually probably won't need this in here either. Won't need any of that because it's going to continue. Alright, and there's a lid. There we go. Alright. Yeah, because all that's going to connect. That is a solid start. Okay. Yeah, next time we're going to, get all this in here. Gonna have to call it here for tonight. We got a good chunk of this going on here, guys. Really happy with how we've got this going so far. It's looking awesome, and I'm excited to continue this next time. So I really appreciate you guys coming out and joining me. I know it was just an hour and a half. It was a little bit shorter of a stream. I do a couple opportunities coming up in the following weekends where we can probably do a couple of like 3-4 hour streams if you guys are into that. So let me know how this one went for you. We got a really good solid start on this. We got about half of it modeled right away. We're going to do the other half next time, and we're going to do full on, high poly, unwrap, bake it, and then throw it into Substance Painter, and we'll get everything on there. Substance Designer, Painter, get everything looking just fabulous. So I hope you guys have enjoyed. Thank you so much for joining, and let me give you the splash screen here. If you have, let's see, post stream, there we are. So if you guys did like what you saw tonight and you want to see more, check it out. I've got a couple of links here, and then here, of course, on Twitch, if you guys are here on Twitch viewing. But I do have a weekly tutorial series. I do anything I'm learning, I just, show it back to you guys, so that way you guys can learn right along with me. And if you have any questions at all, anything you want to know, anything you don't know yet, or anything that I've done something when you have more questions about, what software am I using, what are my computer specs, everything, I've got it all there for you, and just let me know and I'll be happy to research it. We'll figure it out together. Alright, so again, thank you guys for joining. Hope you have a terrific evening, and I'll see you next time.